The truth sets you free. With the world's fastest reader, Howard Stephen Berg. Hi everyone, Howard Berg, world's fastest reader, and welcome to another show. And as always, we start off thanking our sponsor, and today it's Dr. Sugg at the Wheatland Dental Center. In fact, Dr. Sugg's daughter will be a guest in an upcoming show, and so will his wife. He's one of the most amazing dentists in the world. This man has worked 14 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week for 40 years at being a dentist. If you're looking for someone who actually knows how to be a dentist, when you do it that long, you kind of learn the skill. He's an amazing guy. He does it all. He does endodontistry. He does sleep apnea. He does surgery. And he's the official dentist of the NFL. And you can see here Eric Dickinson. I think Troy Aikman was there. He just does all these players. A lot of them are big, heavy guys, and they get apnea. And he saved a lot of their lives. They come from all over the country to be with him. So write down his number. It's 972-22-SMILE, Dr. Harry Sugg. You'll be glad you did. I use him. My wife, who hates dentists, he's the only dentist she'll go to, loves him, and you'll love him too. Now, as always, I like to start off with a little learning tip. I thought I'd do something a little different today. You know, the name of the show is The Truth Sets You Free, and I thought I'd talk a little about what is truth, because that's a big question in the Bible. And actually, two of the smartest people who ever lived kind of tackled it from a moral standpoint, Hegel and Kant. Now, Hegel said truth was a perception. I'll give you an example of what he meant. Let's imagine Adolf Hitler saves a Jewish kid from drowning in the ocean, and everyone goes, what a great guy, but they don't see him putting the kid on the train at a concentration camp. So they are making their moral judgment on his action that they observed, which was he saved the kid's life, great guy. Another person, same scenario, goes to save the kid and is a bad swimmer, and the kid drowns. He killed the kid. So on Hegel's terms, the man who drowned the kid was immoral because that's what you perceived, and the other person who was actually had bad intent was moral because you didn't see the bad intent. Kant, on the other hand, says, no, perception isn't the whole thing. There's more to it than what you perceive. There is truth that sets you free. Now, which of the two of them are right? They're both right, but Kant is more right, and I can prove it. For millennia, people thought the earth was flat, so they wouldn't sail their ships far offshore. They lived in a flat world. They acted like it was a flat world, but what was it? Round. And because of their perception or belief, they didn't see the truth, and they limited themselves. Not until recently in our lifetime were cigarettes considered bad for your health. Back in the 40s, they gave them to soldiers. Doctors prescribed cigarettes to calm people down. No one would ever do that today, but they perceived it as a healthy thing. But was it the truth? No. So you can believe whatever you want or whatever you see, but it doesn't make it true. You might be living a lie, but the truth does set you free. And that was why I named the show after that concept. And speaking of that, a lot of the problems we have in the world today is everyone looks at what makes us different. They look at races. They look at political differences. They look at religious differences, and there's wars. But there's a group in this world of good people called Rotarians, and they don't see what makes us different. They look at what makes us the same. And I'm very lucky today to have a very special person, Mr. Dendy, who is the governor of the Dallas Rotary. And I just want to tell you, he's one of the most amazing people I've ever met. I know he's going to be shy about this, but I want you to know I've met a lot of people in my life. He's one of the most special people I've met. We were at a meeting in Dallas, and the day before, he just got back from Cuba helping people get medical supplies into hospitals. And then the next day, he's flying to Malawi to help set up wells because people there are dying because their water isn't good. So he's literally dedicating his life to doing good deeds. And to become part of this, you become a Rotarian. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The Rotary and people like Bill that are in it and making it an organization for good around the world. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. And it's a joy to be here.
Thank you. Well, of course. I agree.
Every day with you is a joyful day.
But tell my wife.
With those closest to us, you know how the profits are at home.
Yes.
But I do think Rotary, with 1.2 million members worldwide, it's the largest non-religious, non-political service organization in the entire world. And Rotary was created over 100 years ago with the intent to do good work for the Rotarians that are members of our local club, as well as good work for our community where we live, right here, as well as doing some good work worldwide. And with that idea, I think most people have a heart of service. Most people want to give back. Most people want to do some good. It's just our lives get so busy that to have the time to do the good, it's very challenging. Rotary is a system that allows you to plug in so that when you have a free weekend, you're able to plug into what we're doing in our community right now, be it clearing a park, providing, one of Rotary's first projects was providing public restrooms in downtown Chicago. And 100 years ago, they needed some public restrooms in downtown Chicago. Sometimes today, I think we need those things. But doing work locally, if you have a free weekend, Rotary Club has already established things that can be done within the community.
Like the orphanage.
Absolutely. Or one of the things that I really loved that our local Rotary group had done was working with Child Protective Services. Child Protective Services had a number of children that had been taken out of horrible, most abusive situations you can imagine, and they needed permanent, loving parents. But the challenge was that even though they had a lot of parents that were pre-qualified to take these children in, everybody wanted the babies. They wanted the 3-year-olds, the 4-year-olds, the 5-year-olds. By the time a child became 8, 10, 15, people saw them as the dossier of problems that they presented, and parents would say, well, we'll pass on this. We'll wait for the little one. Well, the challenge was we had these children who were growing up in the foster care system who needed parents that would be available to them permanently, and we had the parents, but we couldn't put them together. And Rotary worked with a group with the Child Protective Services to set up an adoption awareness carnival where they invited the children to come in and just be children, to play games, and they invited the parents to watch the children just being the innocent, wonderful children that they are. And we figured if we got one adoption made, it would be a wonderful, worthwhile experience. In one carnival, we were able to get 12 adoptions made for children that were not going to have parents any other way, who were locked into the system because when they saw them as the children they were, they took them in. And that was a loving thing done locally with a real need. And many of us think we live in an affluent area and we don't need all this effort and good, but there are so many needs right here. But you also mentioned the needs halfway around the world.
Yes.
And Rotary is plugged in as a global organization with Rotary clubs all over the world to tackle some of these biggest needs worldwide.
Let's talk about some of them. Not that long ago, polio was a blight in the world. There were hundreds of thousands of cases each year, correct?
Absolutely.
And now how many were there last year, roughly?
Well, it's amazing that in the 1970s, polio was about eliminated in the United States. But the rest of the world were still seeing polio cases. And it was a group of Rotarians that said, well, let's get rid of polio on a Caribbean island. And they were successful. And they said, well, if we can just provide the immunization to all the children of the world, polio would go away. And people said, well, you can't immunize all the children of the world. And polio took on that challenge. And they said, yes, we will. And in the 1980s, they took on the mantle to eradicate polio worldwide, country by country. And it was a couple years later that the World Health Organization said, yes, this is viable, it's doable, it should be a major focus. And Rotarians continued to organize to do inoculations where millions of children at one time were inoculated in places like India. Yes. And the World Inoculation, our immunization days were legendary, were great, but it wasn't until the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation stepped in to further support it that we've been able to eliminate polio in all but 3 countries right now.
And the backstory is, how did we reach the Bill and Melinda Gates? Do you know the backstory?
Backstory, please.
There was a Rotarian that was the father of Bill Gates, and another Rotarian contacted him. It might have been John Germ, if I'm not mistaken. And he's the current international president. And because of that phone call, he called his son. His son spoke to Rotary. And how many cases of polio were there last year, roughly?
Well, we're at the point now, with this Rotary year, we've only had 5 cases
In the world.
reported in the whole world. And we're let down to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. And we thought Nigeria was wiped out last year. We went a whole year without a single case being reported, and then we had cases again. So it's very difficult at the end to totally eradicate the virus, but we believe that we're just at the cusp of eliminating polio. It will be the second disease ever to be eliminated. Smallpox was the first, and it was because of the commitment of Rotarians who've raised billions of dollars to push this forward, and the matching and additional contributions from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that within our lifetime we will see polio eradicated. And that was a major focus of all Rotary clubs working together to tackle one very large problem. And today in the United States, I have a 14-year-old son, and I was talking about polio, and he's like, that's not the game that they play on horses, is it? I'm like, no, polio was a terrible thing that only a generation ago, people were afraid to swim in the summer times in the swimming pools or the lakes. We have a friend in our Rotary Club who is confined to an iron lung because of polio. But he continued on and went to SMU Law School and is a practicing attorney today.
In an iron lung.
In an iron lung, because he's able to force breathe for a few hours a day. It wears him out, but he's able to get out just enough to have had a very fulfilling life in spite of all the challenges that polio has presented to him. But in the rest of the world, a child that contracts polio, the life is over. The whole family cries for the child because there is no future. And so once polio is eradicated, well, you still have the people who've suffered from polio to provide for them. And I think that it's neat that the Rotary Foundation, the Rotary clubs all over the world have taken that on as a challenge.
Let's talk about the foundation. I think it's one of the highest rated not-for-profits in the world. I think the top 1 to 4, somewhere in the top 5 in the whole world.
The Rotary Foundation is almost 100 years old. 2017, the Rotary Foundation turns 100 years old. And the Rotary Foundation was created... Arch Clump. From very meager beginnings, $24, I believe it was, at the end of the International Convention was put into the foundation to continue the good work of Rotary. Today, the Rotary Foundation, on the beginning of its 100th year, has spent billions of dollars doing good worldwide, and it's recognized as one of the top foundations for money going to where it's supposed to go.
Over 90% of the money goes to the people, not to the foundation.
To the administration.
Right.
The administration costs are very low because we have Rotarians on both sides of the equations. So Rotarians raise money in the United States, but we're doing work in Malawi, Africa. We're working with a Rotary Club there to help put the money to work. When you have Rotarians on both sides of the equation, more money gets to where it's supposed to go.
Like wheelchairs. You were involved in that, I believe, as well. In a lot of places in the world, no one has a wheelchair, and they're crippled. These people, they literally walk on their knuckles. They crawl on their hands and knees. You were showing us a video at our club. Why don't you tell them about that and what happened with that gentleman?
Well, the foundation supports so many good works. And and you had mentioned the foundation is ranked by CNBC and Forbes and the Charity Navigator, charity.com, as being one of the few foundations to have a perfect 100 score for oversight and for the initiatives. They do so many things, but one of the things was wheelchair distribution, the gift of mobility. In many countries, just having a wheelchair makes a tremendous difference, not just for the recipient of the wheelchair, but for the entire family, where we've done wheelchair distributions where a brother will bring his brother in, and they'll talk about how they have carried this person for years. And a wheelchair gives the gift of mobility to the individual, but also gives the freedom to the entire family, and it has a multiplier effect. And to see people who are literally crawling about the streets, being for the first time able to get to eye level and get to direct their own future without crawling in the streets is
literally
a moving experience, but it does show the abundance with which most of us have been blessed. And I think that one of the important things is to remember how truly blessed we are with the abundance that we have here, and how as we give it seems to be multiplying. Giving doesn't seem to take away. It seems to multiply itself in a lot of different ways. I think a lot of people are Rotarians because we're busy in our daily lives. And I don't know if you've ever driven through small towns where they have the welcome to sign.
Right.
And in that welcome to, they've got the Lions banner and they've got maybe the Masonic Lodge, but they've also got that big Rotary wheel.
Yes.
And in many of the Rotary clubs that I visit as our district governor, when I go into the Rotary Club, it'll have the mayor, the city manager, the chief of police, the fire department, the largest realtor in town, a physician, a dentist, and it's the key people of the community who are involved with the Rotary to do more good for the community charity-wise, but also to do good worldwide. But I also think it's very wonderful that this organization that does so much good was begun as a social organization for people who would normally not have a reason to interact, to get together once a week to talk about what's going on in your world and sharing what's going on in my world. And so we make better decisions and we're more connected to our communities. And I think that the social aspect of Rotary is every bit as important as the charitable aspects. And the charitable aspects are amazing, but the socialization and the plugging into a community, I don't know of any better way to plug into a community than to join a local Rotary Club. And Rotary Clubs, it's interesting that most people don't seek Rotary out. They don't know about Rotary. Usually it's somebody invites them into Rotary. But oftentimes the Rotarians are not as conscious as they should be to invite their friends and make it a wonderful gift. Rotarians are pleased for people to come in. If you've never heard of Rotary and you're interested in learning more about Rotary, find a local Rotary Club and pay them a visit.
Can you put it on the screen? Could you give his contact information so people can reach Rotary? Thank you.
Well, our Rotary district is the North Texas region of Rotary around Dallas, and that's District 5810, 5810. It means nothing to anybody else, but it's a good starting place for Rotarians in North Texas. Wherever a person is living, there is probably a Rotary Club or a mini within a stone's throw. Within our little district, we have 65 Rotary Clubs, and every one has its own unique personality, its own reason, its own flavor. And so I'd encourage people to go visit. The Rotary Clubs love to have visitors, and they would love to meet folks who are interested in plugging into the community.
Doing good
work, and socializing.
Yes.
And I think that it's neat to go see different clubs in the community to see which one fits who you are and does the things that you're interested in doing, because they can be doing any type of a project going forward.
Some clubs focus on wheelchairs. I've spoken to many of them. Some of them focus on water projects, getting clean water like you just did in Africa. One of the things they all seem to do, and I wanted to talk a little about this, is children. There's 4 pillars in Rotary, and one of the big pillars is education, which is why I joined, because I'm very interested in helping young people have a future. And these clubs are giving college scholarships. I've been in clubs that are giving 20, 30 scholarships a year. I was just in one in Oklahoma City. They said they had $88,000 a year in scholarship money that they were giving to the community to make it possible for youngsters who didn't have that income to be able to go to college. And they have things like Rotaract and Interact and RILA, which are youth organizations, to help youngsters become academically more proficient and learn some entrepreneurial skills and also learn to give back to the community.
That giving back starts at a very young age, and I love Rotary because as early as elementary school, they have Early Act First Night, which they call it First Night, like the Knights of the Round Table, because they talk about chivalrous virtues. And the chivalrous virtues, or knightly virtues, are things that are internal to most people that we know, but we don't study them or talk about them in school anymore. So being able to discuss them and what it means to live a noble life, I think that's important in elementary school. But beyond that, in high school, we have Interact clubs for high school students to learn leadership skills and to do some good work in their community. And then beyond that, we have Rotaract for college students. And in between Interact and Rotaract, we have a week-long camp, weekend to a week-long, depends upon the district, that provides leadership training. That's Rotary Youth Leadership, and it is a wonderful program to teach skills that are oftentimes not part of a normal class curriculum. skills on how do you organize others? How do you work with volunteers? How do you motivate people to do what they already want to do, but herding cats, I guess, is part of the skill set that we're trying to put out there. And it's important to be functional as you do volunteer work, be it in your church or your synagogue or your community organizations. We all seem to have a good heart to serve, but then to be able to direct all that energy to do something truly amazing like what Rotary is able to do and has proven in the past, it takes specialized skills. And I think that imparting those to our young leaders is very important. And then after college, we expect the young folks to become Rotarians.
And many of them do.
They do, and I wish we had a whole lot more doing it. I think Rotary has been very good at not talking about a lot of the good work they do.
That's why we're here.
When I was, well, I remember growing up, my dad said, you don't go brag about the work you do. You give quietly, and you just do the good work because it's the right thing to do.
This is letting people know there's an opportunity to serve. If they've been looking for an opportunity to make a difference, to help make a better world, you couldn't ask for a better group of people to do it with than the Rotary. So this isn't about bragging. This is about saying, we need your help. We have so many things we're trying to do for so many people around the world. There's always room for someone to help. And whether you could spare a lot of time or a little time, I try to do things like I did the Boys and Girls Club for Halloween. It was in an area where a lot of these kids, they don't get anything. We gave them candy and we gave them toys and we played with them for a few hours and they lit up.
Absolutely.
And it made me feel good. You know, I felt I got as much from it as they did.
Even if you just had 4 hours on a Saturday to give, there's a place to give. And Rotary oftentimes works with other organizations to magnify the good of Rotary. So I think that it's one of the things that they've been good about not bragging, but that's been kind of unfortunate because oftentimes the very recipients of the good work of Rotary, they don't know it's Rotary that's doing the work. And I think that also hurts. Right. And that we talk to people all the time, like some folks in the studio that said, I would love to do that kind of stuff, but they didn't know that Rotary is a place that's been doing so much and it's a place to plug in. And I hope that a few of our viewers will hear the message that it is a place where you can plug in. It's a place where you won't get a political pitch or a religious pitch, but the pitch is we're all God's children. We all do work. And you know, there are even a lot of atheists in Rotary because it doesn't come with the sermon, but they have that heart of service and that care for that fellow man.
And that matters.
And you talked about the great philosophers of Kant and Kierkegaard and Hegel. Well, even Aristotle had said that there is the noble pagan, and this is before the even concept. So I love Rotary. I love what it does. I give a lot of time to it. But those who can only give a few hours still have a place where they can plug in. And it used to be that Rotary required every single week to attend a lunch meeting or a breakfast meeting. Rotary has changed its parameters such that many clubs are now meeting twice a month or making it easier by meeting online with the internet club.
You can watch the video if you miss it. You can attend online from anywhere in the country.
The world.
The world. I've been in meetings where I was traveling and I was on my phone at the meeting, and that was fine. I do the programming for the club, so I try to at least be there to introduce the speaker as a courtesy, even if I'm traveling, because you know someone's kind enough to show up. You want to respect that.
Even from Malawi, Africa, I was able to log in and see what the Rotary was doing, and I love that.
And you founded that club.
The E-Club in Dallas,
yes. You did.
And I love what it's able to offer to the community. I began my Rotary career in the first club in Texas, the Rotary Club of Dallas, wonderful club.
Biggest club in the state.
Over 100 years old, wonderful club. In order to meet the needs of those who were in their 30s and 40s who traveled a lot, the internet option became the way to meet the needs of more people who wanted to be Rotarians. But in today's Rotary world, they can offer the internet through the Rotary Club of Dallas. Any club can now offer that type of online communication. And so I see Rotary being opened up to a lot of folks that used to. It was only the top business leaders that could take 2 hours off every Wednesday for lunch. Yet there are so many young folks. The millennials have a heart of service. They want to do well, but their time is so precious that being able to meet online, being able to meet once or twice a month instead of every single week meets them where they are, and they're able to give in those larger projects. And I think that is the future of Rotary, and I think the future, the next 100 years, is going to be even more amazing than the first amazing 100 years.
And they do all kinds of funding from the foundation for special projects. Like we had a gentleman in our club who's teaching people about AIDS using puppets in Africa to teach children about how to avoid getting infected, and they're using puppets. And they gave him like $100,000, I believe, to spend a year in Africa. And he's using the money to help these children. So we're almost done. First, I want to say your passion for Rotary comes through so well. I think people could see why you were chosen to lead a district. I think you're an amazing human being. I wanted to spend more time on you, but you're so humble. We spent a lot on Rotary, but I know Rotary is like a big part of your life, and I believe it's part of mine now as well. And I appreciate the opportunity of being a member of the club. And if people want to reach you, they can go to rotary5810.org.
Absolutely. And Rotary is a place to connect with others. And as you say, meeting through Rotary, I'm meeting the world's fastest reader through Rotary. I love that. But I'm also meeting the guy who's lived in the iron lung longer than anybody in North Texas. I'm meeting the people who are leaders in their professions and in their careers, people who you read about in the newspaper. The top people within our community are many of them Rotarians.
School superintendents, police chiefs.
With the largest cities in our community are Rotarians. And that network of friends also is so useful with any life's small problems. Contacting a fellow Rotarian and say, I've got an issue, and they're like, yeah.
They'll help you.
How was your trip to Africa? How are things going there? What do you need? It's so beneficial in so many ways, and that is the goal of Rotarians. You help each other, you help your community, and you help the world at large. And if you're not a Rotarian, please check into it. I think almost anybody would love that opportunity.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to have an opportunity as well to help you. Can you put my contact information up, please? If you go to HBspeedreading.com, you can find my programs. They're available for you to use to help your children and you succeed in your information-rich world. I'd be happy to do a free consultation with anyone interested. You could contact me at 214-952-9150. I prefer text, but you can call me. And you can email me at mrreader@msn.com. And let me know how I can help you and how I can serve you. And please take advantage of some of what we spoke of today. You can reach me, but I really wanted this particular show to be about the Rotary. I've just seen so many wonderful things. I've been fortunate as a speaker. I've spoken at maybe 40 or 50 clubs in the last year. And everywhere you go, they're good people, caring people, nurturing people, the kind of people like you who watch this show. So take advantage of this opportunity to get involved in Rotary, and please contact me as well. Well, we're running out of time, so till next time, it's Howard Berg, World's Fastest Reader, wishing you and yours the best of success. The truth sets you free. With the world's fastest reader, Howard Stephen Berg.